Hey Adrian, it's good to see
Hey,
you
Nikki.
again. Oh my goodness. I think the last time I saw you in the flesh was February, right? At the Black Love White Flags event.
Yes, yes. It was a
You know,
great event.
yeah, no, thank you for coming. And I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you today because I know we had such a very, very lively conversation on the day of the event and, in our interactions ever since in response to some of the hot topic TV choices in our community. But before we get into that, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in your own words. Who is Adrian Sterling?
Actor and a filmmaker, a Jamaican and Trinidadian actor and filmmaker who used to play football for a really long time. And I come from Brooklyn and I want to just tell great stories that uplift and inspire and really empower our community. And most importantly, entertain our community as well. So I love Black people, and I want to see us do well. And those are the things that really influence my art.
I love that. I love that. And so I'm so curious about your background story before we get into the nitty-gritty of like filmmaking and Black cinema. I'm curious about your journey from former aspiring athlete to now being this amazing storyteller. Can you tell us a bit about that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I have been playing. I was playing football since I was like 14, and I played in Pennsylvania and at East Stroudsburg in Pennsylvania, and then I was able to do pretty well. I get some scholarships. I went to Florida Atlantic University and played football. And we got to play some really big schools like Florida, Florida Gators, and Miami. And it was always my dream to make it to the NFL and do the whole thing, like buy my mom a mansion and all that stuff. And there was some things that came up that got in the way of that. And that was a real hard thing for me to deal with because I got some good NFL opportunities, but I ended up falling short. And it's like a strange thing. Like, there are so many stories made about like boyhood dreams coming true and, the underdog gets it, but there's not really like stories made when that doesn't happen, right? You don't have like that kind of ending. So I was stuck in a space where like my whole identity, what everybody knew me for, and all this stuff was like something that I was no longer doing. And I just hit like an insane depression for a while. I would say for a while. And one day I just woke up. I always loved watching movies. Like movies have been such a huge thing. Like before my dad left, I remember one of the last things we did together was watch the first Lord of the Rings. Like it's such a strange thing, but I remember watching Blade with him and me and my brothers. Like movies were a gigantic source of inspiration and motivation, and I remember my first time watching The Matrix. Like it was when I was sad, when I need to get ready for a game, I would watch movies. So I always knew it was a passion of mine and that I did want to get into it after football. But football just came sooner than I thought. So I was like, okay, well, what would it take to be an actor? Like what, like what would it take? And then I just started with the Google and I saw some of the trades and I was like, oh, I kind of have some of those. And then I did my first acting class, and my first scene ever was absolutely terrible. Like the worst thing. I still have it on my phone, like the worst thing you could imagine. But I felt so good doing it. Like I felt so right. And I remember after that class, the teacher was like, "Yo, you got something here. Like you got to refine it and put some work in. Like you got something here." and I started acting, and I got an agent and manager. I booked some things, but to like get to where I wanted to get to, I had an acting teacher named Craig Archibald, and he told me that, in this industry, like acting is kind of a lottery business. So it's like you're just hoping that somebody picks you to give you the role that allows you to show all of your ability. But he said you got to stand up in this big sea of people and make people notice you. And I I was like on a roll this like episodic season, like I was getting like a lot of good auditions and stuff, but then COVID happened. And I thought about this advice, and me and my brother, my youngest brother, like he's a director, but he was about to graduate high school, and we thought about it, and I'm like, yo, we could tell a story, but like what story would we tell? And then he looked at me, and I was like, yo, it would be like putting my trauma out there. Like I knew what story he wanted to tell, and I thought it was a lot of good things because I always remembered I don't really see the stories that are like, what do you do after that devastation of your identity, of your dreams? Because dreams do die, right? But the dreamer doesn't. So there's always more. There you can always even when you accomplish a dream, there's more. So I started writing, and we started writing it together about really what the pressure of that big moment is. So, and that's what our short film is like. You got this big opportunity, all the anxiety and panic attacks, something I struggled with for my whole life. And when these moments would come where it's like, oh my gosh, if I nail this, my life could change. Um, it would be like a really rough week because I'm like, yo, you got to get there, you got to do it. And we wrote it, and we filmed it in 5 days. We crowdfunded and filmed it for 5 days. He directed the first thing he directed. He's like 18 years old, and yeah, we got into a lot of great festivals and did all this stuff, but it got the attention of producers and the studios for the feature version of it, and that's what we're working on now. So that's really like the transition into where I am now, and it feels good that the story was valuable because the short really at the festivals and on YouTube when we were on Amuleto and everything, like the comments and everything was just like, hey, your story is impactful, and that's the biggest thing. Like, oh, you can make the world a little bit easier for somebody through movies, like movies did for me.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I'm a crybaby.
Oh no.
I'm listening to you and I'm like, this is just so powerful. And I had myself muted, but the ad libs and the like I felt so much of what you were saying. And
Oh, I love that.
thank you so much for sharing because it's such a powerful way of explaining something that a lot of people go through. And you're right, there's not enough representation about, or depiction rather, about what happens after, And this is
Yeah.
a theme, especially that I've noticed among Black men, athletic leaning Black men. I've heard this story multiple times in multiple ways, whether that's someone who wanted to be an Olympian, by running, or someone who was pursuing a career in the NBA, and for you it was the NFL. I've heard this, whether it's as in your words, falling short, or an injury that ends your career, and especially if you shaped your entire identity and your life plans around it, what do you do next? And I've been wanting to have this conversation for a minute now. I've been wanting to talk about the effect of disappointment for Black men's mental health because it's such a real thing. It's so real and it's not spoken about enough. And that in itself is a whole nother conversation. Like, don't let me get into it now because we will stay there.
Mhm.
But I do want to thank you for just being so honest about that because it's real. And I think when I was watching the film, for everyone watching, by the way, the short film is called Make It Happen. It's available to watch on YouTube. It's incredible for something that was shot in 5 days. That's crazy to me. Because as you're speaking, I'm like flashing back to some of the scenes where I can see how you've tried to depict that moment. And I think that's the power of storytelling and films. And so, you know, you're putting your trauma on screen, but do you think that to an extent it was also therapeutic? Or like, what did it mean for you to write and then perform your own story?
Yeah, no, it was definitely really therapeutic because the biggest part of it was the fact that like that pain and all that wasn't wasted. Like I I can't tell the story without it. So it really helped with my spirit because I'm like, okay, God really did put me through this so he could use me to do this part, and then as we go on to do more and more, it will all be built off of this brick of pain, right? And going through it, like it was like the actual filming of it was so exhausting because of the time crunch. Like that's my actual mom in the movie. Like yeah, that's like my Trinidadian mom, like really
Shout out
doing
to
that.
your mom.
That's my actual mom, yeah. And my brother has all this pressure on him with the my dreams in this movie and everything. So it was cathartic because like it was a family thing that we did, and and to like let out this pain in a way that is helpful and useful for a lot of people. That was something, and it gave me, I don't know, it gave me so much confidence as a performer, as a writer, as a producer, that I can go and I can use these things. And I think that was like it was like kind of a moment in like manhood for me as well, where it's like, okay, this is the kind of man I am. The things that almost broke me are the things I'm going to use to build me up and build people up going forward. So yeah, it was very therapeutic.
I love that. I love that. And I'm sorry, I can't help but think, wow, you are the kind of child that every African parent, Caribbean parent loves in the sense that, during lockdown, some of us were baking banana bread, some of us were becoming plant moms, but here you are shooting a whole film. I love that for you. I love that for you. That's
I
excellent.
was I do love banana bread though. It was a big
That
thing.
undisputable best dessert. Sometimes even not even dessert. I'll have it for breakfast. I don't even care.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why wait?
Whoa,
Throw some butter on it. I forgot who showed me that, but
whoa, whoa, whoa,
banana bread with butter
whoa,
is crazy.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
I'm telling you, you gotta try it.
I, yeah, no, no. Just let it
No,
be. Let it be. I don't know about that. Like, I know it says bread,
butter makes everything better. Just
okay.
remember that.
All right. I'm not gonna argue with you on that.
Okay.
It sounds abominable to me, but I'll let you have it.
No way.
But yeah, so you have spoken a bit about portrayal of your own adversity, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this discussion of Black cinema and what it is, and does it always have to be tied to portrayals of struggle? Like, there's a hot topic discussion around whether Black cinema consists of just Black trauma stories. What are your thoughts on that debate?
You know, I I talk to a lot of filmmakers, and I talk to a lot of obviously you talk to a lot of people who just love watching film. And it's weird because I think black film and black artists, it's weird because it's in a sense it's a struggle for freedom, whereas I feel like our counterparts can make literally any type of film, right? And it's not, nobody cares, right? It's just like, good, they want to make a movie, let's make a movie, it's art. But yeah, when it comes to black film, there's so many constraints around it, right? Like, oh, we don't want any more um, enslaved people movies. We don't want any more trauma stories. We don't want any more of this and that. And it's like, we got to just be free to create our experience because every story helps someone. Everybody, like I said, my story is really a story of failure, and it helps people because people need to know. But if you're like, oh, I don't want to see like certain types of trauma, now I think our us as artists, our job is to make it entertaining and authentic and true. But I think there has been a lot of black trauma stories, right? But I don't know how authentic most of them have been. There've been a lot of tropes that have been constantly shown and replayed, whereas you're like where you as a black person, you're like, wait, my is this like what my life is can only be? And I'm so glad Sinners came out because it's such a unique movie. Like, whoa, black people as vampires and in this space. There was a movie, The Harder They Fall, when you saw black people in a western on Netflix. And there is a black, I remember 2021, 2022, there was like a Black Christmas movie with Forrest Whitaker. And I was like, whoa, I never really seen black kids in a Black Christmas movie with like magic. Like, this is so cool. And then um, there's so there's so much now. There's so much more that we can do, and but what I don't want it to ever become is that we start losing some art, right? Because that's not what happens with our counterparts. Like, they can just make whatever. Like, they can make enslaved movies. They can make magic movies. They can make vampire movies and all those things. I want our stories and I want us to have full creative freedom to create things that are good. And I think the biggest thing is that people want to see our stories. Like, in all their forms, people want to see our stories because we have great artists who tell them, and our great artists tell them greatly. And to me, that is what's important when it comes to this topic. Like, let's you as an artist, you feed off of the things that inspire you, whether that's your life, whether that is, your the things that you're interested in. But we don't want to curtail that at all. Like, we want to feed that in every way, whether it's trauma, whether it's comedy, whether it's sci-fi, all this stuff. Like, black people are such a big, vast people. Like, we are so interested in so many things. Like, let us create those things, and it'll be great. Like, I feel like everything we touch, we make super dope.
Facts, 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 facts. No, I love that. And that's kind of the heart of the golden question here, which is how do you define Black cinema? Like, is it the faces on the screen? Is it who's behind the camera? Is it the intent behind the story? What is it that makes Black cinema Black cinema?
To me, it really comes down to film is a director's medium, right? So to me, it's very important that it is written and directed by a black person. But yes, like the story, we need to be involved in it needs to be a holistic experience, right? Now, there are films that like The Color Purple that Steven Spielberg did is a great is a great film overall, but and it's a great black film as well. Now Black Panther, now that's a black film. All of Spike Lee's joints, yeah, exactly. Um, all of Spike Lee's joints are real black films. So I think the goal of it all is to allow black film is film, and but film is a director's medium, right? So we need to make sure that black filmmakers and directors get to tell their stories, right? And majority of the time, like, they'll probably use like in all history of film that everybody's been doing, the majority of the time, people are using the people that they grew up with and who are around and all that stuff. And that means you'll have more diversity in there. And that means we'll have more black film. But black film to me is an holistic experience. It can be the cast, it can be the front, it can be behind the camera as well. But I do think we want as many black people actually behind the camera making authentic decisions, making sure that this is a real authentic portrayal of a real black experience, because that's what good film, that's what good art is. Good art comes from real authentic artist experience, right? An artist really knowing what they want to say, not like pandering to something. That's not what it is. So that is the best I can answer that.
I love that. I love that. And on that point, I'm curious about how you describe yourself on your website as kind of a fusion of Michael B. Jordan
Oh
and
no.
Sterling K. Brown.
Hey.
I'm so curious. What is it about how you see yourself that shapes the kind of stories that you want to tell? But also, why those two in particular?
So as an actor as an actor, I feel when I didn't really know my identity when I first came out, but I know like they were both former athletes, and I think Michael B. Jordan has a really relatable quality to him when he is acting, that he you can really think, you just really identify with him. You really can understand like what he's going through. And then with Sterling K. Brown, like he's such an eccentric performer. He is funny and deep and dark, and he's such a improvisational performer as well, that I think that I have a lot of that quality in my acting. And they're both in really great shape, and I'm in really great shape. So I said, okay, this is a really good way to market myself. Like, who doesn't want that?
I love that. I love that. That's hilarious. And going now into the topic of Black love on screen, because that's who I think of when I think of Sterling K. Brown. I think of
Yes.
my favorite TV show of all time, This Is Us, and
Yeah.
him and Beth, you know, hashtag Black love couple goals, if I ever saw it.
Absolutely.
And so I want to ask you, like, what depictions of Black love have shaped or moved you the most?
I will say This Is Us was like such a unique thing that I remember, like, because I went to high school in Pennsylvania, so like it wasn't, and like I'm my mom is Trinidadian and everything, so like I really didn't see it like much. Like my family is really like very broken homed ish, and and so I never really saw black couples like around, especially forward moving ones with money or anything, where it like in my life really, like from, I mean, That's a Raven was a good depiction. um but yeah, so when I saw them together, I was like, this is really really cool. Like I thought it was really really cool, and I it really inspired me to just want to see that more. Even like the way they would speak to each other, like the way they would build each other up, the way they would argue. It was just like, whoa, this is something that I've never seen before. Like just a healthy relationship. Um, so I always thought that was so important. It was so important to me that when when I really like came of age at this point, I was like, you know what? Like I really want that though. Like when I was like, yo, what? And then before that it was Michelle and Barack Obama. Like that was probably the most important one, where I was like, wait a second, this is like the mom and dad of America right now. Like this is us, like for real. So these are like impact moments where I was like, yo, this is possible for us because it's not your reality. Like you don't really see it. But then when I started, as I got older and started going back to Brooklyn more and more, then I started seeing it so much. Like in real life, great, healthy, real life black couples that just love each other and love on each other. And so then I wanted to see more of that because I'm like, no, it shouldn't just be This Is Us, Barack Obama and Michelle. Like we should be seeing this in everything. And I feel a lot of times, especially after 2020, like we only got to see, not only, but what we really we just saw like black dots in these shows, right? Like it was like, oh, you know, this white guy has like this black woman and she has no black friends and she there's no black people around her. Like she just happened to be just this, you know, black woman who only is in this white world, or this black man is the only person in his world. And especially as a dark skinned black man, like you're kind of cut out in the sense of being told like you're, you know, a Prince Charming and things. So when, you know, and as you grow up too, like you hear like, oh, mixed kids are more beautiful and all this stuff. So as that became the portrayal, like after 2020, you're just like, oh, this is so strange that I feel like we're not being seen anymore. But then a couple a couple came out. But I will say the most impactful one that I've seen recently is Forever. Because yeah, that was just,
Finally,
yeah,
I was
yeah,
waiting to get to this point.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, everything you said. I was nodding in agreement. It's so true. And I think it's really powerful the the medium of film as a means of filling in gaps in our social structures. Broken homes do exist in Black families and in the Black community, but it's not impossible to get a healthy or exposure to healthy Black love and healthy relationships through film. Like that is still a way that we can communicate
Oh, gigantic.
yeah. And it really is like Black cinema, I think I see it as something that doesn't just shape our individual self-perceptions, but it can also impact how we see each other and how we relate to one another and what we aspire to relationally and as a community. So those are some of the things that were swirling in my mind as you were speaking. But let's definitely get into it. We're on this topic of forever. Okay, let me know. What were your thoughts? How do you find it?
Oh man, it was, so I actually got to watch this with my whole family, like my mom and my three brothers. Two brothers, one non-binary sibling. And it was awesome. Like I think the thing that's the coolest part about it is that you got to see also like a real pro black mom too. Like they really be like that. Like, oh, wait, she's black. Like you got to see such pride in like our community, which is really, really amazing. And it's something that I wish that I saw when I was like my brother's age, like, you know, when I was like in high school and stuff like that. Cause I think it would have, to actually hear people speak like that. You know what I mean? Like people, like those are like the people that I know in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like they speak like that. Like they have these kind of values. And to also see, you know, oh, how a man struggles, right? Like you see Justin's dad, who's like really made it, and Take It, who's from Brooklyn in the show, Linden Boulevard, is the name of his restaurant, which is a main thoroughfare. Um, but who's really made it and achieved like his goals and dreams. And then you see um Lovey Simone's character's dad, and who's struggled, right? And the bitterness that he has, and how he doesn't want his daughter to like end up with somebody like that. And Justin's in the middle of this, and he has such a great role model. And his dad, like, oh my gosh, like his dad is amazing. But it's it's so powerful on so many levels, but it's the authenticity of it and the real struggle of like following something practical when your heart isn't really there, but being afraid to like follow your heart as well. And then I feel like one thing that I never thought I would see on film is that real struggle where you as a man are a little lost, so you just lean on your woman. It's like, yeah, I'll go wherever you go. Like, I'll just do whatever you do. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'll just follow you, but you're not building yourself up as a man, and you need good role models, and you need a good woman to be like, no, you have to find yourself first. That's super important. And you do it out of love. Like that series 8, like that was such a good, it was so good. Like on every level. I absolutely adore it. Absolutely adore it.
I love that. You're making me kind of want to go back and watch it again.
No, I think I might do it this weekend.
No, it was so good. I did love the parental figures in the show as well. It just really shows that it breaks past the stereotypes because the stereotypes are, fatherlessness or, broken home, single mom, she's barely present. But no, you see that, okay, Keisha was raised in a single parent home, but her mom is working so hard to get her child as farther away from the situation that she's in, really working to build that legacy single-handedly. And she's still invested in her child's well-being. And
Hmm.
um, then you also see Justin's family. I also loved how her mom, or his mom, was so excited about her being a Black woman because I was just like, yeah, because the stereotype is that athletes, they get successful and then they, you know, prefer to pick a partner that has more proximity to whiteness as a symbol of success. That's the stereotype. And so to see the pride and joy in Justin's selection of someone who looks like her, I think that was really, really powerful. And
Yeah,
I'm always gonna be here for Black love. I mean,
absolutely.
love who loves you. The market is a bit somehow, the economy, the pool isn't great. So I don't want to restrict people in that sense, but I don't know, I just love seeing healthy Black love, and you're
Oh
so
my God, it's my favorite.
it has so much to do with having positive role models, and people speaking into your life, especially for young Black men. And I love what you were speaking about, when it comes to, that sense of feeling lost. And I'm kind of seeing the connection between that and then also what we started off talking about in terms of building your identity around a particular career, which is usually some form of athleticism, and then that doesn't work out. And now you attach yourself to women, to kind of as a coping mechanism or a distraction.
Yep.
What is it about that space that Black men can find themselves in that perhaps keeps them stuck? This sense that Black men have sometimes, of just not knowing what they want,
Hmm.
where that comes from, and how they deal with that, and what is the solution.
It's so funny. I spoke at a conf like a conference for Black boys last week Saturday in New Jersey, and it was so interesting because there was like the older Black men, there was like Black men my age, and then we were talking to these Black boys from like 10 to about 14. And a big thing that came up was boyhood versus manhood. And even these older men, you're asking them like, when did you know you were a man? which is something that's been on my mind because, there's, masculinity has been like a big conversation, all these things. And I think a lot of their a lot of their examples or their stories about when they became a man is when they either provided for somebody or protected somebody. And and a lot of the boys, their examples were also when they bought something or they earned something. And it's like manhood and boyhood in our community gets completely lost because I think, especially here, black boys are looked at as black men almost instantly, and that's taken away from them. So they don't, they can get treated, and there's so many stories of them getting charged like men about, working with kids. There are so many times where a black kid will respond the same way, will throw a tantrum and be sent to the principal's office, where a white kid will be calmed down. And I just say that to say it's easy for us to get lost because we identify as either a provider, protector, right? There's that pressure of being a man. And then I will say, I don't believe that the majority of black homes are broken. Like, that's just not true. But the pressure of it makes a lot of our men bitter, right? Because I think we surpass boyhood at such an early age, and we feel like we got to earn everything, right? Like, we got to earn this, we got to earn that, we got to earn this. But there was no time spent just being a boy and given some things, right? And then the previous generation was also had it harder, so they're bitter. And when things don't work out, or things don't go the way that we really felt like we not just wanted them to be, but needed them to be. I always say, like, when you grow up poor, like when you come from poverty and stuff, you don't plan a future, right? You dream of it. Like, you dream of future. And then, because you can't really make plans. Like, you don't know what tomorrow looks like. So, and you don't know if you can afford, like, everything is such a struggle. So when you're raised in that struggle, you are, you identify with the thing that can get you out, right? And you don't live life like, oh, okay, today's just a Tuesday. Let me go hang. It's like, yo, I gotta get it. I gotta get it. And I feel like with black men, just the job market, like, you get so overlooked so many times, and you get seen in a way that's not even, it can be that you can feel that the way that you look at yourself is just something projected onto you. You're already dangerous. You're already too serious. You're already all these things. So you get lost when you're not achieving, because I think black men feel that we're only really safe when we're achieving things, when we have a lot, when we can provide the world. And that's why when you get lost, you lean on the things that you can provide for, or the thing that loves you. And even though you might be your worst self, leaning on these things, you're just like, okay, well, this is the one thing I have. Let me just grip onto it, because I don't know who I am. I don't know, like, what the world. I know the world is cold to me. And I think it's like he says, oh my gosh, I watched it. I saw the clip yesterday where he was like, don't hide. Like, it's hard. Like, he was talking to Justin about love, his dad, was talking to his son about love. And he was like, don't hide. You have to find out who you are. You have to go through the fire to find out who you are on the other side of the heat. But that's a hard thing to do. And that is just because being a black man, and all the expectations and the stereotypes and all those things are already so hard. When you don't achieve as quickly as you want to, or things don't work out, it can just devastate you. Like, it can devastate any human being. But with the added pressures of being a black man and knowing like society doesn't really, it's not really rooting for you like that, you know? I think those are the reasons why when we get lost, we just kind of grip onto anything or get really, really bitter, you know, reject everything.
Ooh. Wow, wow, wow. It's definitely giving part two. I'm not gonna even try.
Yes, yes,
So
definitely.
we've kind of just spoken about depictions of black men with nuance in film. And, you know, in society, black men aren't always afforded the space and the safety to be tender, to be emotionally expressive, but film allows for that. So, how do you personally explore or advocate for that emotional vulnerability in the kinds of characters that you play or prefer to play?
I think that anytime I'm playing a character or writing a character, it's important to me that they are as layered as possible, but also layered and as authentic as possible. But in the world that I know, like I want to, if I see a stereotype at all, I'm like, no, we got to go like against it. Like we got it, we can't. And I've talked to directors about that. I've talked to writers about that. And I don't write characters where like you will see what you will see in films that me and my brother write and characters that I play is that black men will always be on their journeys of healing and but honest journeys of healing. Like I think there's only been like this depiction of like the cold black man who doesn't understand his feelings. And I just don't, it's just not true. Like there's black men who are very self-aware, who can express their emotions without punching people in the face. Um there's we're just we're just so vast and there's so much variety within us. And for me, it's just important to make sure I add those colors. Like, what is it that, who are, when I see a character, who's it closest to? Who's the closest person I know in my life? And how do they express emotion? You know, because we don't always punch through walls, right? We don't always like grip somebody up or anything like that. And I want to make sure that that's what I'm bringing to, and I want to make sure that I'm also playing characters that are aspirational, where it's like, hey, I want us as black men to be able to continue to speak about our emotions. Like you'll always see black male mentors in my films as well, because I want that to be a thing. Black male mentors have been such a huge part of my growth and development. And I don't know where I'd be without them, but I don't know where they are in film. You know, they're in forever though. They are in forever.
And
Uh,
us.
and this is us, absolutely. So that's the thing. These are the things that I want to see more and more of that, and those are the things that I will make sure that I always bring um, to characters I play and to characters that I write into stories that I tell.
That's so powerful. And again, I think it just speaks to the power of film and cinema as a means of not just representation, that's important, but also reflection and,
Mm-hmm.
helping Black audiences see themselves with compassion and nuance and grace, especially when it comes to addressing trauma, mental health, or any generational or even individual pains. So, yeah, that's really powerful. And I'm gonna stop right there